Welcome back to the Drowned City spoiler wrap-up. I'm rather Incoherent, and today we'll be covering the last of the Seeker leaks. Let's get started with Alton O'Connell, the Ghost Hunter. He's a 3-cost ally asset, 2/1 soak, ally detective reporter, and he gives you +1 foot. Eat your heart out, rogues. I'm a little bit salty they printed the Seeker rogue and they gave the +1 foot ally to his Seeker half instead of rogues. Rogues are still looking at Cat Burglar costing 1 XP and being furious about it. However, the fact that this is not a rogue card is not ultimately a point against it. Let's evaluate it for what it is. It's a Seeker ally. Reaction: after you succeed at a skill test by exactly 3, place 1 resource on Alton as evidence. Lightning Bolt exhausts Alton and spend X evidence to discover a clue at your location. X is the shroud value of your location. So with Alton O'Connell, there are 2 questions. One is, what scenario are you playing? If you're playing a scenario with a 1 shroud location, and you're a very high draw deck where you know you're getting Alton O'Connell early, then turning 1 evidence into 1 clue repeatedly makes him insanely efficient. However, if you're playing a scenario where there's like no 2 shroud locations, it just starts at 3, then he's gonna be a lot worse, right? If you're playing a lower draw deck where you might get him later, he's gonna be a lot worse. So having high draw density and being in scenarios with low shroud locations are fairly important to his functionality. However, most scenarios have at least a 2 shroud location, and most Seekers are going to have insane draw. So I think those are not really super important questions to how effective this guy is. The real question is, how reliably can you succeed a skill test by exactly 3? And my answer to that is not very. You can really reliably pass a skill test. You can use the science stuff and really reliably pass it by a number that gives you a benefit, but most of the science stuff that adjusts your succeed value is once per turn. And I don't know that you can reliably be getting like more than once a turn on pass by exactly 3. It's also going to depend on like what investigator you're playing, what shroud you're at, and it's obviously going to like how likely you are to pass by 3 depends on the bag and your base values, blah, blah, blah. I don't look at this and think it's easy to get a lot of evidence on this guy. You definitely can get evidence on this guy, but like assuming you're to be using him at like a 3 shroud location and then twice at a 2 shroud location over the course of a game, that's not incredible. Like, I'm assuming you can get 7 resources on this guy, which might even be optimistic. And then he gets you 3 clues, which is honestly not bad. Like for 3 resources, you get some soak and 3 clues. Bonus mythos stat, it's not bad. If I'm underestimating him and you can get notably more than 3 clues, he might actually be pretty good. But I look at this guy and I think, wouldn't I just rather, you know, play one of the 1 book allies that makes me better at my job for getting the clues the normal way? Because like if I run this guy, right, and I investigate up 2 and I fail by 1, I've actually lost a clue from not running Milan, right? Ignoring all the other differences in the allies, by which I mean the massive pile of resources that Milan will make. I just look at choosing to give up +1 book and then getting an ability to get clues that won't really work at high shroud locations by design. And I think Seekers have no problem clearing the low shroud locations. I'm thrilled to wander into a 2 shroud location already. I want an ally that makes me crack 5 shroud locations. I don't care about this. I don't think Alton's bad. I just think Alton's confused. I don't think you can get that much evidence, and I think cracking low shroud locations is not the thing I build my Seeker decks to do. I'm sure if you build a deck with him, using him, he will function, he won't be terrible, but I can't find a world where I think he's good, where I think building around him in any capacity is making a stronger Seeker deck. The main reason I would ever look at Alton is if I decided that +1 foot was incredibly important to the deck I was building. In which case, yeah, he's just like automatically the best Seeker ally. So it really depends on this. It's not about how much evidence you get, it's not about the shroud locations, it's about how much you need +1 foot. And if it turns out I'm building Lucius to have 19 foot, then I'm running Alton O'Connell. But otherwise, I'm probably not putting this guy in my deck. Next up, we have Forensic Kit, a 3-cost hand asset, item tool science, uses 4 supplies. Action: spend 1 supply to investigate. For this investigation, you may use foot instead of book, and you get +1 skill value. If you succeed and there is an exhausted enemy at your location, heal 1 horror. I'm not certain on this, but to me it looks like the way this is phrased, where the commas are, you get +1 skill even if you use book. You don't have to use foot, although obviously you much prefer to use this if, say, your book is 3 or 4 and your foot is 5+. So obviously you'd prefer to be using book, but it can be used elsewhere. Not that you probably will. The big thing here is if there's a tripped guy at your location, heal 1 horror. And I don't know, man. If we're building cards where they're only good if I'm tripping guys already, this feels like a rogue card in the wrong class, which, like, it's Lucius support. You should expect some amount of that, I suppose. But I don't know. What's Lucius's soak? Hold up. Unlike most Seekers, Lucius does have a 6 in horror soak. So there is a real chance that healing horror can matter on Lucius, and since he is base up 1 foot, and then you can also get the plus 1 foot from Alton, like there is a world where Forensic Kit is effectively +3 to investigate checks and healing horror. And you know what? That's a card that's worth existing. I personally don't build my Seekers like this. If I really cared about healing horror, I would run like an art student or a lab assistant to draw cards, find clues, just soak the horror on them. This feels reactive and like it's not compressing actions nearly as much as the other options Seekers have, but that's not to say it's a bad card. If you're building the Foot Matter Seeker that Lucius wants to be, this card will be fine. That said, fine is so much worse than what Seeker can already do that this card stands out to me as one of the reasons that Standard needs to happen. The reason card rotation should be coming out is because I look at a card that says +3 to 4 test to heal 4 horror. I'm like, wow, fucking trash. I'm Seeker. You think I'm gonna spend my time on this? I haven't talked much about rotation coming up in these videos. I'm trying to keep it all in one place at the end of this series. But I think Forensic Kit's a great example of a card that is, like it was always gonna be Seeker that had this tangent in it, where Seeker's opportunity cost is so fucking insanely high that even genuinely good cards, this basically says in Lucius, pass forward investigate checks, heal 4 horror. That's not true. There has to be an exhausted enemy at your location. But I'm going to take it for granted that Lucius can make that happen. This is just a genuinely good card that is unplayable in a world with Magnifying Glass and Dr. Milan. I say unplayable. I can't make a compelling argument to build a deck around this at all. That's what I mean when I call a card unplayable. There are a lot of cards that are just genuinely bad, or unplayable is the right word. When I say it here, I mean in a comparative sense. Moving on to Oculus Mortem, it's a 3-cost hand asset, item, tool, and occult. It starts with a 0 evidence. After you seal, cancel, or ignore a chaos token, exhaust Oculus Mortem, place 1 evidence on it, and then reaction. When an enemy attacks an investigator at your location, spend 1 evidence and exhaust Oculus Mortem. Discover 1 clue at your location. If that enemy has the Geist trait, deal 1 damage to it. My evaluation for this card will be completely ignoring this last line. That's not going to happen the vast majority of the time. Maybe it'll come up all the time in Drowned City, but generally speaking, not important. This falls into a group of cards that are coming out in this expansion where I feel like there are going to be enemies that attack you that you just can't deal with in the Drowned City, and I don't understand how this functions in a normal game. Like, am I supposed to be triggering opportunity attacks to get clues with this? Because I really don't understand why the enemy is alive and hitting people. And maybe that's like a very try hard playing on Standard mindset to have. It's like, why is the enemy attacking? Implies that I'm far more in control of Arkham Horror than Arkham Horror wants me to be. But genuinely, that's how the game tends to play out. If an enemy is attacking somebody at your location, I kind of wish that instead of playing Oculus Mortem, you'd put something in your deck that dealt with the enemy. Because apparently the fighter doesn't have it under control. I kind of wish my fighter were a better deck and he had it under control. I don't look at that and think, oh, I should have run Oculus Mortem to get a clue off the opportunity attack. I don't know. I feel deeply confused by this card. I'm not sure what it's for. Oh, also, it's obviously meant to be run in Agatha. I'm not even concerned about putting evidence on it. I'm just like acting as though it has unlimited evidence. Why is its trigger condition even going off all the time? Who's hitting me? And because of that fundamental confusion, I can't evaluate the card. I don't see why this would be useful to me. Maybe your fighter is Diana and this is a sick team synergy thing. That's definitely something cool you could do with it and absolutely changes how you evaluate the card. Because Diana's safeguarding with you and using the wrench, obviously this will go off more. But outside of that, I don't really see where Oculus Mortem fits. I love that one specific combo. That sounds like a sell. I'd love to play a Seeker using this card alongside Daniela. But other than that, really not interested in this. Don't understand what it's for. Kind of looking forward to seeing the campaign a lot more to figure out why this line of card exists. Next up, we have the Uncanny Specimen, a 1-cost arcane slot asset. It's a creature and a science. Myriad fast. Up to 3 Uncanny Specimen cards take up 1 arcane slot, and then reaction. When a non-auto fail symbol is revealed during a skill test at your location, discard Uncanny Specimen, cancel that chaos token, return it to the chaos bag, and reveal a new one. If this test is successful, draw 1 card. I'm just gonna go out on a limb and assume we're talking about a Seeker who is up so much on the test that other than auto fail, they are guaranteed to pass. On hard, this gets better because a lot of these symbols are not if conditions on hard and expert, right? On normal, it'd be like, if you fail, add a doom. On hard expert, it's going to say -3, add a doom, right? It's actually more like -4, -5, but you get the idea. So on higher difficulties, this is an inherently better effect because passing won't stop the bad thing these symbols do. However, on normal, let's assume you're guaranteed to pass other than an autofail, which is probably the truth in a Seeker. This essentially is a one-cost draw event, right? I would look at running this for the same reason I would look at running Tempt Fate. And in that respect, I think it's better than Tempt Fate, to be honest. It's also worth noting this is at your location, so you could theoretically, rather than just like using this to draw off of a investigate action for no reason, you can use this for team support, right? Your teammate draws a squid when they were up 2, it's a -3 with a fail condition, you drop this, they redraw, they'll probably pass. And even if they fail, like, yeah, that sucks, but them probably passing was the value, which is more valuable than drawing a card. In terms of team support, I think that's the big thing this does, is you try to cancel your teammates' squids on tests that they were otherwise likely to succeed. I don't know, man. It's the Seeker problem. If we were playing in Standard and there were like 100 cards, then maybe Uncanny Specimen hits the board. But playing with like 500 cards in the pool, giving up 3 Seeker cards for this, I don't know about that. It's not bad, right? One cost, draw a card. Like, there's a lot of text between one cost, draw a card on this, but ultimately when I evaluate this, a huge part of what I'm evaluating is one cost, draw a card. It is perfectly fine in a class like Seeker that's often trying to draw through their deck as quickly as possible to cycle just the most powerful cards in it. Additionally, it has the team support if you're able to cancel negative tokens on somebody who otherwise would have failed the test. I don't think it's bad. I'm just not quite sure who it's for. There's no doubt about who Misdirection's for, considering he's in the art. It is a 2-cost, 2-experience arcane slot asset and a ritual. Limit 1 per investigator, once again seal +1 or 0. You may resolve this keyword again after you discover the last clue at your location, which being the Seeker, you will be the one doing that. And reaction, when an enemy attacks an investigator at your location, exhaust Misdirection, release a token sealed here, cancel that attack, then that investigator may move to a connecting location. So as with all of these cards, I don't like sealing good tokens. Sealing any token other than autofail increases the chance of autofailing. Sealing good tokens does that as well, but also just increases your chance of failing. Additionally, if you play too many cards like this, cards like Unrelenting stop working, but that's so niche that it basically doesn't matter to actually judging the card. And as with all of these cancel that attack cards, I'm just looking at this, I'm like, yeah, but why are you getting attacked? Also, that investigator may move to a connecting location, like, cool, if you can turn this into someone else's Pathfinder, that's pretty cool. But if there's an enemy engaged with them, they're gonna need to deal with that enemy next turn. It's not really Pathfinder, right? I look at this and I don't get it. That's how I feel about every single one of these cancel that attacked cards that are coming out in Drowned City. I'm like, why are we getting attacked so much? What the fuck is our fighter doing? Doesn't Michael have 15 guns in his deck? Why are there so many enemies? Even assuming we're getting attacked all the time, I don't think I would spend 2 experience and Seeker of all classes to get this effect. I'd much rather, instead of buying 2 copies of Misdirection, buy 1 copy of Cryptic Research and play it on my fighter so he can do his fucking job. I don't understand these cards, man. I'm looking forward to seeing the campaign because I genuinely don't get why all of these exist. And I'm pretty sure that like after we finish our first campaign, like an hour into my tables post talk, we're gonna be like, wait a second, why'd all these cards exist? What was the point? Because I can't imagine a mechanic where all of these cards start making sense. I feel like this is just a random line of cards to solve a problem that doesn't exist. I'm hoping I'm wrong. And lastly, we have Antikythera, 3 cost, 5 experience, accessory slot, item, relic, and science. Reaction, after you succeed at a skill test, exhaust it. If you succeed by 1 or 3, discover a clue. 2 or 4, draw a card and gain a resource. By 5, get an extra action during your next turn. I would say an action and a Seeker that's buying this is probably worth a clue. A clue is obviously worth a clue, and I'll say that a card and a resource is worth about an action, which in this character we've established is worth about a clue. So what's this say? If you succeed by basically any number, get a clue. Do I think that a 5 experience, 3 cost accessory slot that gives me a clue every turn is a good card? Yes, I do. Do I think I'm buying this in Seeker? That's a much more complicated question. I wonder if they had printed this with only the first line of text and not the other 2. Would this still be a 5 experience card? I don't think it would. It's weird because this looks like one of those science cards that you put in a deck where you're manipulating what you get. But I think all of these are worth about the same amount. I think you just throw this into literally any random Seeker and it gets almost the exact same value as a dedicated science deck that's trying to land on certain numbers. I'm not gonna analyze this card further. I'm just gonna say this is an obviously good card. There's no situation where you buy this, it goes into your deck, you draw it, you get it into play, and you're not happy to have played it. It's obviously good. I think it's also just not broken, and I judge things in Seeker predominantly by their ability to be completely fucking broken. In a healthier world, when standard rotation happens, maybe Antikythera will be the standard strong thing that most Seekers think about doing. But right now, you can play this card. You'll have a good deck. You're playing Seeker, of course you will. But I don't think this really competes with the top tier of nonsense that Seeker does, and it's a big part of the argument as to why standard rotation needs to happen, because, you know, this card's obviously great, and I just can't really imagine why I'd put it in my deck. Which brings us to the overall review of Seeker. Lucius Galloway, I think, is the character I am least excited about from the next expansion. That's not true, because I forgot 2 of the characters from this expansion. One of them being the only half a Seeker, Agatha Crane, and the other one being Gloria Goldberg, who barely counts. And I think I'm probably less excited about Agatha. But Lucius is a close second. When I first saw Lucius, I said this ability and the support for this ability was going to matter a lot. Reaction: after you successfully evade an enemy by 2 or more, discover 1 clue at your location, limit once per round. The issue being that cards like Breaking and Entering that do not do a test do not succeed by anything. The enemy was just evaded. No skill test was taken. He's just tripped now. Unless there's a ruling somewhere that I don't know about that's come out since like original spoilers, this still is the case, that all the best ways of tripping enemies available to him, a segment of Onyx and Pendant of the Queen, Breaking and Entering, that sort of stuff, none of it actually does a test. None of it triggers this. So you're actually taking the test the hard way, making this not a way of compressing clues, but a way of getting more value out of evading, which is fine and good and all. A Seeker with pickpocketing sounds fucking horrifying. I'm looking forward to draw a million cards by tripping a guy, Lucius Galloway, but I'm not very hyped about his raw power, because the thing that's fun to me is trying to figure out how to like bypass the initial evaded check to get tons of action compression. And there's not a whole ton of that going on. There's a little bit of support I've seen for that, but I generally don't think there's a lot. And by and large, this is more about testing it the fair way and getting your action compression elsewhere. As a 4-book Seeker, you need to overcome the 4-book. That's perfectly doable. Tons of characters do. Rex is in my S tier. Ursula's great anyway. Like, the 4-book doesn't really hold him down, but if you're also simultaneously trying to build to use your foot, things get a lot more complicated. I'm just not super hyped on Lucius. I don't think his ability is insane. I don't think his stat line's insane. I think his card pool is nuts, and I'm really looking forward to like building with him a little bit. But the fact that I'm not hyped out the front of the character sheet really does make me a bit sad. Also worth noting that I don't think Dreams of the Flood is going to be fun to play with, and it's part of the reason I want to play Draw a Million Cards Lucius, is so that when I get this, I can trip a guy, draw 4 cards, and then just cycle my deck so I don't have to redraw it immediately. I'm going to go ahead and say that even now, at the end of spoiler season, I do not have opinions on Agatha Crane. I cannot be bothered trying to figure out what this character looks like without theory crafting decks for her, which I will probably do in the near future after I wrap up this series of videos, because this is just like a card pool and a game plan that has not been interacted with, right? Seeker and Insights is basically mono Seeker with 10 level 0 Mystics. And the 35 card deck size doesn't feel like she deserved it. But her stat line is just Ursula's stat line, except she has her Mythos stats flipped, which is a good stat line. Her ability is a very powerful action compression if you reliably find a way to trigger it, which her signature does, so you just need a ton of draw to do that, and with Seeker cards she can. So I'm interested in cooking for Agatha. I'm interested in finding out what she really is, but in terms of hype for the character, I'm interested because I know nothing. I don't understand her enough without actually building decks for her, and I haven't got to that yet. It's entirely possible she's one of my favorite characters in the game, and I just don't know it yet, but right now I just cannot look at her and understand what she will be without building the decks. Dial of the Ancients I generally feel was a miss. I'm not particularly excited by this card. Feels very hard to crack for anyone other than Lucius. And then for everyone, the actual effects of it don't really excite me. The exception of that being this one, Signs of Cataclysm, where you can seal the auto fail and then just keep it there for 4 rounds, and if you find a way to move charges, keep it there forever, which is, you know, fucking obviously broken. There's like a real argument that I hate to death that Lucius is one of the best characters in the game because he's the best at cracking Dial of the Ancients. You just build to seal the auto fail, making your team unbeatable. That's not farcical. That's not insane. You can make that argument. I don't like it, but I think there's a real argument that Seal Lucius is powerful, and anyone who can build to solve this and do this is powerful. And this is the exact sort of shit that I mean when I was talking about Antikythera here. It's like, yeah, Antikythera is good. Did you know you could spend less experience to remove the autofill from the game? There's just so much insane shit that gets printed in Seeker that Like, this gets lost in the noise to me. This isn't even, like, it's only comparable to the best stuff Seeker's doing. I don't think it's clearly the best at all. I definitely think it's clearly broken, just like most of the class. But coming down to the majority of their actual cards, you have stuff like Artistic Inspiration for George and the discard archetype. Alton O'Connell giving an access to build more Foot Matters in Seeker does make me interested, but I don't really feel like there's that much going on with the archetype currently, outside of specifically like Trish and Lucius. I've talked about Forensic Kit in detail. Mortar and Pestle, again, just not a good economy card. Oculus Mortem's just designed to fill a niche I don't understand. Like, so many cards are stopping attacks in this set and I don't get it. Uncanny Specimen's a victim to Seeker design. I think come rotation, I'll probably be playing this card a lot more. Correlate All Its Contents is just obviously a valuable card. Again, because of Seeker broken bullshit, I don't know that it's really the most broken thing you can do, but it's still very, very good. It gives you a way to ensure that you are not going to auto-fail in a test where you're about to commit deduction. It also gives you a way to place charges and secrets on things, possibly more than that if you're playing the Science Manipulation archetype. So I think this is obviously a good card. I think there's no way you build a deck with Correlate All Its Contents where this card isn't good. I just don't know how good it's going to be. Cosmic Revelation's a wonderful support card, really looking forward to playing with this. There's not a ton to say about this. This is sort of Ever Vigilant 4 writ small. Actually, yeah, that's a perfect comparison, really, because Ever Vigilant 4 is 4 play actions, 4 resources. And this, for less experience, is player count play actions. So yeah, that's a good comparison, actually. Misdirection, again, same niche, same problem, don't know what it's for. And while Quick-Witted is a neat design, it's just not a design that I feel many Seekers need. Even if you're specifically trying to fix a foot weakness, there are better 1 experience cards to do this because of Survey the Area. This just feels like a card without a home to me. Oh, I forgot how hyped I was about Scientific Studies Grant. It's just Bandolier for Seeker. And what better way to balance the class than to make a bad Bandolier deck? I'm gonna have a lot of fun with this. I don't know what you even need the hand slots for, but I'm gonna have a lot of fun playing Scientific Studies Grant. Oh no, where's Timepiece of Antikythera? Let's just go back to this one because that one's huge. It's an Item Relic Science. Oh shit. Because it is a science asset, you can attach Fine Tuning to it. And you can build a Bandolier deck with your Antikythera so that you have like 4 hand slots for your magnifying glasses and your Hawkeye folding cameras. Oh, it does have to be exactly 5. I thought it was 5 or more. Okay. But still, you can build a Bandolier deck with Fine Tuning, where the point is that you can reliably pass by like baseline up 4, and you're using your science assets to try to get to 5. This is definitely better with Fine Tuning, using a Bandolier strat to reliably be pushing at like, you expect to pass at 3 or 4, and try to push it to 5 with your science stuff. I'm not going to tell you that taking Scientific Studies, a backpack full of magnifying glasses, and the Antikythera is a good deck, but trying to get to 5 action turns by repeatedly triggering Antikythera at exactly 5 is exactly the sort of hype shit I want to build when I look at Seeker, and that's why I like Scientific Studies Grant so much. I know immediately that even if this works, it's not even close to the strongest thing Seeker can do, but it's fun and interesting, and it fills a hole in the archetypes that are available, allowing you to play things that previously didn't exist. So I like it a lot. Now, on the exact opposite end of the spectrum, Working a Hunch got an upgrade, and I literally don't know who wants this card. Spend 2 experience on anything else. Perception level 2, Deduction level 2, half of Cryptic Research. Do not upgrade Working a Hunch. Don't do it. If I were still playing physically and using cards to proxy cards where we only had 2 copies of it and everyone wanted one, say Faustienberg and Deep Knowledge, that sort of stuff, I guarantee you Working a Hunch would be getting added to my pile of knife cards. So how do I feel on the whole with Seeker this expansion, with Antikythera, Scientific Studies Grant, a bunch of cards that really feel like they missed for me, but also a bunch of cards like Cosmic Revelation that feel quite strong and interesting. Cards that are good, even if I don't think they are good enough for Seeker to run, an Uncanny Specimen. Forensic Kit being admittedly a strong card that I just think is the wrong way to build Lucius. There's a bunch of interesting stuff in here, but at the same time, I don't feel like it pushes any new archetype. And I sort of think that's just victim of being Seeker. They've been king for a long time. It's hard to give them strong new archetypes, right? No one wants to see Seeker come out with another analysis. No one wants to see Seeker come out with another clue dropper archetype. Seeker is so strong that it's probably a good thing I don't look at Seeker and think it's winning this expansion. However, it does have some really compelling stuff to build around. Dial of the Ancients is obviously a strong thing with removing autofill from the game. There are some interesting pieces of other archetypes with stuff like Alton, Artistic Inspiration, and Forensic Kit. But the big thing for me, aside from just absolutely loving Oculus Mortem, specifically with Daniela Reyes, I really like Cosmic Revelation. I'm okay with Correlate All Its Contents. and I'm a huge fan of Scientific Studies Rants. I think those cards all add a lot of fun, interesting things for the Seeker class. And while in no way do I think Seekers are winning this expansion, I do think that they've gotten decent tools, that nothing they got is really horrible. I've been waiting for the full set reveal for Agatha Crane so I could theory craft with full information when I was trying to understand what she does. And it's possible I'll be a lot more hyped for the entire set once I understand Agatha. But for now, looking at Lucius, I think that a lot of the best cards for Lucius aren't from Seeker. A lot of them aren't even from this expansion. For the expansion as a whole for Seekers, you got some cool stuff. It's a good class. There's no way they were gonna go from top dog to bottom dog. They're still probably the best class after this expansion. And I am very happy with some of the stuff they got. Very, very specifically, it's Cosmic Revelation, Correlate All Its Contents, and Scientific Studies Grant. Scientific Studies Grant is just, I want more Bandolier strats, man. I'm always gonna try to optimize whatever deck I'm playing, so if there is a fun concept that is inherently bad, I'm going to play the shit out of it. That's just like, you give me Bandolier strats and I am Sisyphus pushing the stone up the hill trying to make it work immediately. This is a trap for my brain that I can't get out of. And while I recognize it as suboptimal, it's incredibly fun and I'm glad it exists for more than just Guardians now. Additionally, Correlate All Its Contents is just good support for the charge and secret stuff that's never really fully been a complete archetype in Seeker outside of infinite charge stuff using Eldritch Sophist. And Cosmic Revelation's the kind of stuff I want as support Seeker. Despite not getting a great roster of cards, I think there are several cards coming out of this set that I'm going to see played time and time again going forward. It's not a bad set for Seeker, it's just not a particularly hyped one. Anyways, that'll be all for now. I've been Rather Incoherent, thank you for your time. If you made it this far, then please do press all the buttons below to make the algorithm happy. It really does help the channel grow, really do appreciate it. And a massive thank you to everyone supporting this channel, both here on YouTube as channel members and over on Patreon as patrons. I'll see all of you in the next one.